Let me ask you about a couple of ethics things, if you don't mind. One place where you and Senator Patrick, to come back to him, have been going round and round is over what you say is his unwillingness to disclose information about his personal bankruptcy, any liens that he has, his change of name, and you've asked him for 7 years of tax returns. Basically what you've said is, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Join me in disclosing. You have yet to disclose. I don't expect that the first thing you do in the morning, Commissioner, is read the Tribune. But today we have a story. If that's the case, then today you saw a story about our attempt to get from the 48 candidates for state office this cycle their 3 years of tax returns. Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst provided us with 3 years of his tax returns as we asked for them. Commissioner Staples provided us with 3 years. You and Senator Patrick did not. If you want to trump Senator Patrick on non-disclosure, why not disclose yours and shame him into disclosing his? Why hold yours back if on principle you're willing to release them, but only if he releases them?
We had a little kerfuffle down in Houston at a forum in which he used the double dipping, referring to my...
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah,
we're going to come to that next.
I kind of thought you might.
Heads up.
I kind of thought you might.
Right, yeah.
And I said, you know, if you're worried about, if you have an interest in my personal finances, I have a really big interest in yours. And I said, Dan, I'll do 7 years worth of tax returns if you will do 7 years worth of tax returns, and if you will talk about all the assumed names, and if you will talk about all the bankruptcies, and if you'll talk about all the liens, and if you'll talk about all of this, you disclose that, I'll disclose mine. You show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Right.
And he dismissed that out of hand. There's a lot there.
Well, there may be.
Yeah,
But why don't you disclose yours?
Well, because I have made a challenge to Dan Patrick. He hasn't responded in the manner that I expect him to respond, and that's where I stand today.
But the principle of transparency and good government and the climate in which politics is practiced today is the public wants to see that you're not using any of your public responsibilities to enrich yourself personally, and they want to know where your sources of income are. And as I said, a number of other candidates running for statewide office, including two.
I'll tell you where my sources of income are. Yeah. I got a state salary, I have a Marine Corps retirement, and I've got a Social Security check.
If it's that simple, you could, with the touch of a button, show us that stuff specifically.
I could.
But why? So why don't you?
Because I have issued a challenge to Dan Patrick, and he needs to respond to that.
It's entirely
challenge.
about that.
Yeah. I generally don't back down. When I believe in something strongly, he has a hell of a lot of things that he wishes not to disclose.
On this double dipping question, we're referring to the practice of accepting a state salary on the one hand and taking your retirement or your pension on the other concurrently. This was something that came up in the 2012 presidential race when it was discovered that Governor Perry was doing such a thing. It's known as double dipping. You are not currently doing it, but have said if elected Lieutenant Governor, you would.
I have an announcement. I'm going to make news right here today.
Go do it.
I'm going to dedicate 100% of my net state salary to charity as Lieutenant Governor.
You're going to dedicate 100% of your net state salary?
And I'm challenging the other candidates to do the same.
Right. So you would not be paid anything as Lieutenant Governor?
No, my net state salary, which is something less than $600. I'm going to dedicate my state salary to education, to charity. To charity.
So this question of accepting both at the same time, you think is a
I think it's a legitimate question when you're making a $150K salary and when you're making some substantial amount.
So you disagree with the governor's decision to have done that?
Yeah,
since he has a real salary.
I would not have done that. There's a difference between making $150K and making $7,000. I'm taking it off the table. I'm taking my entire $7,000 annual salary and I'm going to dedicate. I'm going to donate to charity, and I challenge the other three gentlemen to do the same.
You know that Greg Abbott, who I believe...
that's really substantive, isn't it?
Well, it's specific.
I mean, this is what we're down to, This is what we're down to.
Trying to find differences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Greg Abbott, who you support for governor, has put out a series of ethics proposals, one of which would eliminate the ability of someone like you in that position to accept the pension alongside the salary. You and he are not in the same place on this.
We're not for Lieutenant Governor. Here's the problem in part with politics is it's the domain of the rich guy. Who can afford to be, you can afford to be a state rep or state senator because it's a part-time job. But Lieutenant Governor is a full-time job. So we want to make it so only rich white guys or whatever description you wish to use can be Lieutenant Governor. I don't think that's in the public interest. We need to have more folks in the public office. We need more pipe fitters and teachers and fewer wealthy guys.
Of course.